Hey, welcome back to lesson 1 of the 7 steps for success as a neurofeedback expert. Step number 1 is awareness. Now, if you look at our image here, you will see that this ring is the largest ring, which means that we need to spend, maybe I'll have to say a lot or more of our energy in this step, because we really need to build community awareness so that people know that your practice exists. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Hang on, my slides aren't. Okay, now we are going to think about who you are serving and how you are going to attract them. So we're going to talk about your ideal customer avatar, and if you haven't heard of that term, it is the person that you are best suited to work with. And then we're going to think about other people also. That's the who. The how is there's 3 main mediums that you can use to attract people to your practice. We're going to cover them, and then I'm going to challenge you to think of what other mediums could you use to attract people to your office. Okay, so who. Now, in my neurofeedback expert program, you'll hear me talk about trying to attract people with ADHD and anxiety. And this is important to me to communicate to you, especially if you're first starting out. So, of course, your ideal customer avatar might be athletes if you have a sports medicine practice. So then this might not apply to you. But if you have a varied office with a multitude of different types of patients or clients, then you really should tune in and listen to what I'm going to say here. Okay, so now you have your training in your brain core system, and you know that there's different diagnoses that have different brain patterns, as I call them, irregular brain patterns. If you remember, ADHD is a pattern that I always use hand motions of Hertz, actually. So ADHD is down here. It is a person who's using much too much slow brain processing speed, called theta. So ADHD is a brain pattern of too much slowing. Down here, theta, 5 Hertz we'll estimate. People with anxiety are over here. That is a person that's using much too much extra fast speed, high beta. So that's 25, 35 Hertz. So when we are putting out into our community that we work with people with ADHD, too much slowing, anxiety, too much fast speed, it really is providing marketing or advertising or awareness that exists on a continuum of both ends. So hopefully you're following me. And then what happens is people in between can conceptualize slow and fast and can think about where they might exist on the continuum. So I will tell you now, my practice is called Leigh, Brain, and Spine. I am partners in crime with my husband, who is a chiropractor, Dr. Cosmos Leigh. And if you look at our website, you'll see that we are building a practice with a lot of niche clientele. But I'm going to tell you, when I started practicing, my first website only talked about ADHD and anxiety. And half of me thinks that's probably all I need. But I've built web pages on just about every other diagnosis that's out there. Everything that's written on our website, I've personally written. So if you want to go there and find some information, that's a cool resource for you. But the point is, when I did have a web page with only 1 or 2 pages, and I talked about ADHD and anxiety, many people will call my office with tons of other challenges because they understood this continuum in their mind, even though they knew nothing about it. Another reason that that's important is because many times, most times I would say, a person with ADHD has comorbid anxiety. And as you get practicing, you'll realize that a brain that is using too much slowing often uses self-compensatory neurological strategies to compensate for all that slowing by kicking the brain into overdrive, which is too much high beta, which then results in anxiety. So many times ADHD and anxiety are existing together. So you're actually advertising to your absolutely perfect clientele, and it brings people in pretty quickly and easily. So you want to think about adults, children, or families. Brains don't fall far from the tree. And so this is proven by science that children's brains are like one of their parents or a combination of their parents. So ADHD is familial. So is anxiety, for that matter. Many challenges that derive from irregular brain patterns are familial in nature. So families are great to work with, and we offer family discounts in my office, and we encourage families to all come in, because if we can neurologically regulate all of them or help them to become neurologically regulated, they all gain self-regulation skills, and their family life really just improves dramatically. Okay, so ADHD, and I work with some doctors in my neurofeedback expert program that just don't like working with children. Then appeal to adults, appeal to who you want to work with. For me, it's very important. I call it a lifestyle practice, and I'm sure I'll probably talk about it more, but I'm building a practice that feels great to me. And honestly, I don't really want to go to my office with having 6 children. I need to be available for them. So working with my partner in crime, the Hubs, he is in the office all the time, and we've built a practice surrounding him as the practitioner and me as the educator, which fits what I think is fun and the best thing that I want to do. And I'm going to approach that with you also in a few minutes. But so you really want to attract to yourself people you want to work with. And that can be adults, it can be children, it can be families. Okay, so that's ADHD. When we're trying to attract people with anxiety, you have to realize that anxiety can be hidden in other diagnoses or challenges that people struggle with. So if you are a doctor that works with pain a lot, and I know a lot of chiropractors tend to be pain-based, people who have high levels of pain also have high levels of high beta. Again, that's proven by science. I'm just the messenger. So if you are working with people with pain, many of them could really benefit from a brain map and then neurofeedback to improve their high beta levels or status, which would then help to decrease their pain. Pain is processed in the brain. So pain might show up in the body, but it's processed in the brain. And when we bring the brain online and have it perform better, pain thresholds decrease. So anxiety is part that, and I always use a lot of diagnoses with air quotes. I can't even help myself. But an anxiety brain map can be all of the things that are listed here. Pain, sensory processing issues, that tends to be a combination of the ADHD pattern and the anxiety pattern. Chronic anxiety, or someone who's running high beta for a long time, that results in a stressed out burnout pattern, and it looks different. A burnout pattern tends to be excessive delta. So basically the brain's been sustaining high beta for a really long time, and it conks out, and now we have excessive delta also, or just excessive delta and lower beta. But anyways, people who come in who are stressed out and now are burnt out, their lifestyles are at risk. We work with a lot of people who run major companies, so their brain is basically always on and always on overdrive, which is high beta. And then they get to a point in their life where they can't think, they can't sleep. Brain fog, which is the next symptom that I have down there, is a result of anxiety. It's from running hot for too long. And I will tell you, science shows that this is now the majority of the people, especially in the United States of America. And 5 years ago, it was at 53%. And you'll see all different definitions if you look this up online. But just to frame it for you, more people in the United States are diagnosed with mental health issues, anxiety being the number 1 and depression being number 2, than ever before. So, and people are on more medications than ever before that aren't working because the percentages of people with anxiety and depression are going up, up, up. So you need to find them and you need to help them. And I tell my team at work at Leigh Brain Spine this all the time. People need us more than we need them. Of course, we want to build a practice, but the reason you're here is because your community needs you. People are a mess. Their brains are very neurologically dysregulated. You need to find them and you need to help them. Okay, so let's think about niche clientele, which I started to talk about. So if you have a sports medicine clinic, then you might just focus on athletes. So what you need to do is all of your literature and everything you say needs to be focused at your avatar. So if you're only going to practice in terms of peak performance in athletics or bringing athletes back up to snuff, and that's a really cool area if you know anything about it, and that happens to be your jam. There's lots of cool science that shows neurofeedback is very beneficial, especially when it comes to head injuries too. But anyway, so who do you love working with? And I want you to actually think about this. This isn't who you work with. It's who you love to work with. If you could only bring one client in, and honestly, I'm going to challenge you to actually see that person. So that person for me actually is changing over time. But in the office for a long time, that person was a mom who has 2 children, who's pretty chill, who's an achiever like me, and who wants to help her kids, and is a professional, so she has the resources to be able to pay for it, and she wants to be able to think about how neurofeedback works. But honestly, that's morphed into, now I work with a lot of people who are into personal development and professional development, and kind of like I was saying, people who feel stressed out and burnout and don't want to. They want to be able to maximize their brain capacity so that they can do their best work and live their best life. So that's becoming a really fun clientele for me to work with. Who are you skilled working with? This goes back to your license and what you've been doing. And part of my neurofeedback expert program is helping people think about what their state license says they're allowed to do and who they're allowed to work with. And you need to think about that and contemplate that. That's a discussion for a different day, but who are you skilled and who are you trained to work with? Who do you work with now? So you can usually add neurofeedback on top of the services that you're providing to serve the people that you've been working with all along, while you're attracting new people that you're interested in working with. And you've probably heard me say this if you've heard me speak anywhere, that in my office, we've really attracted a niche clientele of people who struggle with tinnitus or tinnitus, ringing in the ears, and misophonia, which is sensitivities to other people's sounds, like chewing. And that's become a really cool niche clientele for us to serve, and we're really enjoying it. So we're attracting more and more of that, but that's not something that we've done over our professional lifetimes, but my husband and I are trained to be able to do that. I started as a speech language pathologist, and my undergrad is in speech language pathology and audiology. So, that's right in my wheelhouse, and clearly as a chiropractor, neurological function and how that plays out is in his wheelhouse also. So that's pretty fun for us. Okay, so what need can your neurofeedback serve in your current practice? So I already gave the example of chiropractors and pain. That's a need. People have pain and they're coming in for chiropractic, and now you have another awesome tool to be able to address people's pain. So think about that for your practice. What need are you already serving, and how can neurofeedback be used in a similar or maybe in a different way to be able to serve what you already have going on in your practice? And then let's think about how you can attract those you would like to work with the most. And we're going to get there in a second. Pain, cognitive issues. So I've always loved cognition, which is thinking. So if you're into that, you want to be able to help people to be able to think better, memory, information processing, learning, reading, learning challenges, anything like that. Psychological issues, we've already talked about some of them: anxiety, depression, mental health issues, sensory issues. Those are really cool. People have sensory processing disorders because their brain is overactive, stressed out and burnout. We already talked about, and peak performance I've alluded to, but there's many, I guess, people in pop culture like Tony Robbins. I'm always talking about Tony Robbins because he has a cool article online that says that business people should use neurofeedback because it optimizes your brain so that you can tap into your creativity and implement it. That's peak performance to me. And really, that's thankfully now where I exist in terms of using neurofeedback. Back in the day, you may, just by my lifestyle, get the sense that I tend to run hot. So, doing 2 PhDs at a time, why do 1 when you can do 2? Why have a couple kids when you can have 6? So my brain runs hot, but thankfully it's a really beautiful version of itself right now. And I use neurofeedback and my brain health practices to keep it there. Okay, so how to build community awareness, again, built on neuroscience and a strong business model. Our three main modalities are online, which is obviously the most popular and kind of where people exist. In the third place, one of our patients runs a very big computer game company, and he calls online the third place. And as you can imagine, the first place is school or work, the second place is home, and online is the third place. And that's where most people are most of the time. But again, a conversation for a different day. In print, which is kind of a dying modality, but if we're trying to make our community aware, sometimes there's logical places that you can put print articles, and I'll tell you in just a second. And what I think is the most powerful, building community partners. And when I started, I actually made a little bet with myself to do 3 per day. I reached out to people, 3 people per day for ADHD and anxiety, for my niche clientele, which I told you was moms with kids with learning challenges, and my ideal customer avatar, which is wrapped into one, but you can do, I wrap those into one, but you could do 3 different clientele if you wanted to. But the point is, reach out to people, and it's the idea of low-hanging fruit, that reach out to people that really could benefit from your services. And it's just building awareness that you exist. But let's back up to online first. So Google AdWords can be a little pricey, and the downloadable for this lesson is to challenge you to think about other ways besides these 3 modalities that you could build community awareness. But on that downloadable, I put dollar signs, basically like you would see for a restaurant. And $1 sign means it's very affordable. $3 signs means that it's less than affordable or it costs more money. So of course, anything you do in terms of advertising comes with a different price tag. In Google AdWords, you can pick your own budget, but a lot of times to be effective, more is more. But Google AdWords, you can just run them for ADHD, and then you run another Google AdWord for anxiety. And there's different parameters that you have to be careful about. In my neurofeedback expert program, I give you the Google AdWords that are proven to convert. But in the meantime, you could use Google AdWord Express, which helps you to build those Google AdWords so your community can start learning that you exist. If you don't know how Google AdWords works, when a person puts in ADHD treatment, your town, then your ad pops up at the top, hopefully, and then it becomes the top one. And people now know those are ads, but it still provides the ability for them to click on that ad so that then they land on your web page or your landing page, which is also here online. And the key to online and to all of this community awareness is congruency. So write this down or remember this, congruency. Your ad has to be congruent with where the person shows up on your webpage or your landing page. If you put anything in print, it has to be congruent with your website. So you don't want to have baits and switches. You want people to really, if they click on an ad that says heal ADHD, it's true, that's an ad that I have out there, then they need to land on a landing page that says #1 way to heal ADHD. So congruency, very important. Okay, again, in my neurofeedback expert program, I teach you how to use Eventbrite and Facebook boosts, but in this short course, I want to tell you they exist, and then you can go out there and be able to create your own Eventbrite event, and that has a ton of power to it. And you can put you could put an article on Facebook and boost it, or if you do events, you can boost your event on Facebook to gain more traction in your community. The cool thing about Facebook is you can pick your demographics. So you know who my avatar is. I pick women between the ages of 34 and 45 because I want women who have a few kids, who might be a little bit older, and they have expendable income basically so they can afford my services. So that's all congruent with who I'm looking to attract and how I'm doing it. In print, in my neurofeedback expert program, I advocate that people should do 4 quarterly seasonal launches. So to be able to do that, you have to be able to have something to communicate about, which is your seasonal program. And then quarterly, you put ads or articles in your print. And for me, I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, so there is a Chapel Hill magazine that comes out once a month, and it sits in every person's home and in every business. So even though it's a little pricey to have ads in, it's effective because it's sitting around the community for a month. So we always get people from it. And then this way, if it's a seasonal program, it has urgency for people to call us to get in time. Another print mechanism, which combines it with online, are emails. So once you have a person's email address, which is part of everything you're looking to do here, is to get their email address so that you can communicate with them, then you can use print to communicate with them through emails. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Okay, so how do you build awareness? I want you to list what you do currently. So if you are just starting out in neurofeedback, you might be doing different practices for your primary service that you're offering, whether that be mental health therapy or psychotherapy or chiropractic. What are you doing right now to let your community know that you exist? Okay, and then the downloadable, download it and dig into it. Which ones of these new activities maybe feel good to you? And there's a variety of activities on this downloadable. I want you to choose 3 of them that you think you could actually do, and I want you to do them. And you need to be consistent. So remember the point of these 7 steps. It's to build traction over time. So the psychology of purchasing shows that a person needs to interact with a service or a person 8 times before they are willing to commit to it. So you need to get in front of a person more than 1 time, especially when it comes to neurofeedback, because it's difficult for people to understand. So you need to pick these community awareness activities and then commit to them on some schedule so that you can get in front of people continually. And it happens in my practice all the time. This just happened last week. A person who came to one of my workshops over 2 years ago, it was almost 3 years ago, came to one of my workshops. I haven't done workshops in 3 years, so now I do everything online. But she came to my workshop 3 years ago, had her son's brain map done 2 years ago, and just signed up for care. So for some people, it takes them a long time. But I've been emailing her all that time. And I usually send out emails once a week, and just fun little content emails, and then also launches for my seasonal programs. And then I also have articles in some different print publications, and I have ads. So she's been seeing me for a couple of years, and her son's still not improving. Many people think their situations are going to improve. They actually get worse. And if I'm still in the loop with them, then they will come in, and the same will happen for you. Okay, so download that downloadable and dig in and get working with it, and then move on to lesson 2, because I'm going to talk with you about how we're going to build a knowledge base. And this one's tricky in neurofeedback. So do it now. I can't wait to see you in the next lesson. Thanks.